Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome Kent C. from Sandusky, Ohio.
My grandmother always said things go better when you pray first. Why don't we do that? Heavenly Father, use me tonight as an instrument that I will speak through me, so whatever results that you desire here tonight will be accomplished in all things. Thy will, not mine, be done. Amen. What I love most about AA, and I love everything about AA, is the simplicity of it. I am a very simple guy. There's a line in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's in the chapter Working with Others. I can't tell you what page. I can't tell you what paragraph. I was taught that this is a living program. It ain't a memorizing program. It ain't an analyzing program. It ain't a discussing program. It is the design for living. Recovery is in my feet. It ain't in my head. But somewhere in the chapter, Working with Others, there's a line that bottom lines the simplicity of AA for me. And what that line says is simply this: remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people, it is dependent upon his relationship with God. The single most important fact in my life as I stand here tonight, and the only reason I'm standing here tonight or anywhere else, is that I got a power in my life that I choose to call God, who does for me one day at a time what I could never do for myself. If I had the power to quit drinking on my own, I'd have never come to AA. Why should I? Why should I? My dilemma is a lack of power. My dilemma ain't a lack of money. My dilemma ain't a lack of education. My dilemma ain't a lack of relationships. My dilemma is a lack of power. And that's the reason that I pray before I introduce myself from behind the podium of Alcoholics Anonymous. My entire life, I don't know about you, I can only speak for me. Selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem. It has always been about me. No. Left to my own devices, I assure everybody within the sound of my voice, I would have destroyed myself years ago. That prayer reminds me of two things that I believe are vital and crucial to me staying here. First and foremost, the reason I'm in Columbus, Mississippi tonight is to do God's will, not mine. And it also serves to remind me that He is in charge here tonight. And as always, thank God, I am not. Good evening, my name is Kent Coleman, I'm an alcoholic. First off, my parents raised a mannerable young man. I want to demonstrate that. I want to thank this committee for your kindness. I want to thank Amanda for the emails and constantly staying in touch with me over the last year. I want to thank Kevin and Tony for picking me up in Birmingham last night and, making the journey over here. It is an honor and a privilege to participate in any way in the life-giving, life-changing, life-saving fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care if it's setting up, making, cleaning up at the home group, going into the sober houses, institutions, detoxes, jails, prisons, all of the things I've been blessed to do in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can never, I don't know about nobody else in here, but when I came to the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, mentally, physically, and spiritually, I was more dead than alive. How can you possibly outgive a fellowship that restores life to the walking dead? I don't know. I don't believe you can. But it's a lot of fun trying, ain't it? No, that's the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous. So anytime I'm given the opportunity to live in the solution rather than live in the problem, which is in my head, I always say thank you. I want to thank David for taking me over to Sober Living House today and allowing me to see the miracle that is being done in Columbus, Mississippi. When we went over there and we walked through the house, my thought was, how can I move down here and be a part of this? Because that's what I do. The more you give, the more you get. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is about. If selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of the problem, then unselfishness is the root of the solution. We was talking before the meeting, and one of the things, I used to call my sponsor when I was new, and I would read him my list of grievances for the day. You know, and here's all the people that have mistreated me. Here's the people that I'm mad at. Here's the things that didn't go my way. And he would quietly listen. And once I would get done, he would say this, who you helping? And I say, Bill, I don't think you were listening. Let me run through that one more time. And I would read my list to him again. And he would say, who are you helping? Click. And I hang up the phone. See, what he was trying to teach me is what Alcoholics Anonymous is about. The more you give, the more you get. The first 11 steps prepare me for what? What is the principle of the 12th step? It is service. The highest distinction that one can attain in this life, I don't care whether it's in AA or out of AA, the highest distinction one can attain is that of servant. And I am grateful to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and to have this way of life that has given me such joy. And I'm going to talk about all that. Because if you came up in here tonight to hear somebody boo-hooing and miserable and I'm grinding through one day at a time and I'm still so sick, you got the wrong speaker up in here. Because I don't have to live like that anymore, and I don't. A little story I want to tell you that'll give you some insight into your speaker tonight, because I know it's new people out here thinking this guy came all the way from Ohio. Maybe he has something new or profound to tell us. Let me tell you a little story about your speaker tonight. And it's a story about 3 boys that was called into the principal's office on the last day of school, and for simplicity's sake, we'll call them Mike, Mark, and Kent. And the reason we was called into the principal's office is very simple. It's because we was 18 years old, and he had decided it was time for us to get out of the 6th grade. So we came in there and we sat down and the principal looked at us and he says, boys, he says, you're grown men now, you're still in the 6th grade, you're causing all kinds of problems here, I want you out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask each of you one simple question, and if you answer it correctly, I'm going to promote you to the 7th grade. First he looked at my buddy Mike. He said, Mike, let me ask you a simple question. What is it that a woman has 2 of that a man loves to get his hands on? Boy, Mike sat there for a minute, he rubbed his chin, he thought about it, he said, I know. He said, hands. A woman got 2 hands and a man loves to hold hands with a woman. Principal said, congratulations, Mike. You're now promoted to 7th grade. Then he looked at my buddy Mark. He said, Mark, let me ask you a simple question. What is it that a man has 1 of that a woman loves to get her hands on? Well, Mark sat there for a minute. He scratched his head. He pondered it. He said, I know. He said, a wallet. A man got 1 wallet and a woman loved to get her hands on a man's wallet. And the principal said, congratulations, Mark. You now promoted to the 7th grade. Then he looked at me, he said, Kent, now I'm going to ask you a simple question. I looked at him, I said, God, I hope so, because I missed them first 2. Hey, to the new people in here, we are not a glum lot. If new people could see no fun or joy in our existence, they wouldn't want it. I had enough of pain, misery, self-pity before I came up in here, and I don't have to live like that anymore. And I don't have to live like that anymore. Let me share something with you. When I came to AA, I'm going to tell the new people, I want to talk to the, see, I remember what it was like to be new. You know how you remember what it was like to be new? If you out there now and you got some time up in here and you can't really remember what it was like to be new, let me tell you how I remember what it was like to be new. I sponsor people. That's how I remember what it was like to be new. And when I was new, I didn't come here with AA etiquette. I didn't know what an open meeting was. I didn't know what a closed meeting was. I didn't know what a sponsor was. I didn't know what a home group was. I didn't know a big book from a Rand McNally Atlas when I came up in here. No, and I thank God for the long-term members of AA in Ohio who did not beat me up, belittle me, call me stupid, and tell me to shut up. Because, no, really, I wouldn't have took too kindly from that. I didn't come here from Sunday school. But anyway, who talked to me with patience, kindness, tolerance, and love, the watchwords our book says, and taught me the things that I needed to know about AA. And when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I started watching. See, I hear best with my eyes. Because see, when I came here, I didn't know you. So if I don't know you, why should I listen to you? But I could watch you, and see if you walking like you talk. I saw 2 distinct groups of people when I came to AA. Those who were doing well and those who were not. Okay, those who were not, we'll call them group 1. Group 1, in and out, in and out, in and out. Every time they came back in from being out, they looked worse than the last time they came back in from being out. Okay? Restless, irritable, discontented. They talked of terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. That's group 1. I ain't seen nobody go out and come back passing out $50 bills and driving a BMW and talking about how good it was out there. And then we had group 2. And if you've been at this convention any amount of time this weekend, you've seen group 2 in action. You see them at your home, group 2, making coffee, setting up tables and chairs, putting out the literature, standing at the door, shaking hands, greeting people. They talk about God, big book steps, spirituality, helping others, and enjoying life sober. We'll call them group 2. Now, as my story will prove to you later, I am no rocket scientist, but it sure looked to me like the people in group 2 had a heck of a better deal than the people in group 1. Okay? So keeping this simple, I asked myself, what is it the people in group 2 do that the people in group 1 don't? Okay? The people in group 2 had some things in common. They had something called a sponsor. Okay? Now, I didn't know what a sponsor was. I used to play softball for Cronin's Tavern. They was our sponsor. They gave us free beer and clothes. I thought, well, maybe AA ain't so bad, right? And you sat me down and you told me that a sponsor is somebody who has working knowledge and experience with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, as outlined by the founders in the big book, who is willing to take the time to share with me the program of recovery as outlined in that book. And just as importantly, in my opinion, even more importantly, is a living demonstration of those principles in their life, who will show me what my life can be like if I do what they do. The simplicity of AA. If you're new in here, AA is monkey see, monkey do. Just make sure you follow the right monkey. Notice that I said working knowledge and experience with the 12 steps. I didn't say book knowledge. I'm a college graduate. I knew how to read when I got here. I need you to show me how to do this. I have sponsorship in AA today. I'm sponsored by Bob D in Las Vegas, and I have the continued spiritual guidance of Bill F. in Lorain, Ohio, and Ken B. in Parham, Ohio. Bill is sober 50 years, Kenny is sober 40 years, and Bob is sober 34 years. That is 124 years of active membership in Alcoholics Anonymous that I have at my disposal on a daily basis if I choose to use it. To the new people in here, I want to share something with you. Having a sponsor is a great thing. Being sponsorable is even better. Being sponsorable is even better. I sponsor a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous all over the states. I sponsor guys overseas. I work intensively with other alcoholics. A guy said to me recently, Ken, how many people do you sponsor? I said, about half of them. But ain't that the truth? About half of them, right? I do this sometime, and I think I'll do it here tonight, and I have a reason for doing it. And you don't want to participate, you don't have to. With everybody that's in this room right now who would be willing to sponsor a new person in AA, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. If you new and you ain't got a sponsor, I just hooked you up. No one ever need leave an AA meeting without the benefit of sponsorship. Every time I do that, people laugh, but I do it for a reason, and the reason is this. I remember what it was like to be new. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know you. I don't know if you got 10 years or 10 minutes, nor do I know if you'd be willing to help a guy like me who didn't even feel that he deserved any help. So if you're new in here, the help that you need just identified itself. What you do with that information is up to you. I carry the message. I don't carry the alcoholic. Another thing that people in group 2 had in common, they had something called a home group. Now, they told me, Kent, you ain't the most responsible person we've seen come into AA. That was the understatement of the century. And they said, you need to get a home group and start giving back to this fellowship that is giving so much to you, and start to learn how to be responsible and then carry it out of these rooms into your daily life. See, what I was told when I came to AA is the most important thing is not what you do between the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer. It's what you do between the Lord's Prayer and the Serenity Prayer. This is the design for living. It's not to be compartmentalized within 1 hour of my life at an AA meeting. Until the rubber meets the road outside these rooms, I'm going to be somewhere drunk with a whole lot of knowledge about Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a home group today. It's the Friday Night Venice group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Sandusky, Ohio. It is a very old group. What I can tell you about my home group is this. It ain't the best group in the world. It ain't the worst group in the world. It's just an AA group. One of the things my sponsor Bill taught me when I came to AA is, Sonny, it's okay to stop competing now. My entire life was lived on a better than or less than basis in my head. And a funny thing happens when I live my life better than or less than, I am never a part of. And what I know is this, Tradition 1 says our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. If I consciously or unconsciously separate myself from you as better than or less than, I'm a dead man. If my experience don't prove nothing, it proves that on my own I cannot stay sober. I'm an alcoholic. I ain't the best alcoholic ever to come here. I ain't the worst alcoholic ever to come here. I'm just an alcoholic. And that's what I like to call the total package in Alcoholics Anonymous. Sponsorship, big book and steps, home group, and service. In here we call that the 3 legacies of unity, service, and recovery. In my experience, which is the only thing I'm allowed to share from behind the podium, I have yet to see an alcoholic of our type. And if you don't know what an alcoholic of our type is, read the book. I have yet to see an alcoholic of our type come in here, take that total package, apply it to their life, one day at a time to the best of their ability, which is all that is ever perfect. If you new in here, I want to share something with you. I'm going to take the pressure off you. God don't require more of you today than you're capable of. If you're anything like me, I'm a guy that sets unreachable goals, fails to reach them, then say, what's the use? Anybody in here ever do that? See, God has given me everything I need this day, no matter how long I've been here, okay, in order to be sober, happy, joyous, and free. I have it right now. I have it right now. God don't expect more of me. I have yet to see an alcoholic of our type take that total package and apply it as best they can and go out and take a drink. I ain't seen it happen one single time. And I've been here for a while. To our new friends, I want to share something with you. The program of recovery was designed for success, not for failure. But I must participate in my own recovery. And I'll talk about that later. Okay? On the flip side of the coin, I have yet to see an alcoholic of our type come in here, ignore those things, and stay sane, sober, or happy for any appreciable length of time. The simplicity of Alcoholics Anonymous. Those who do get, and those who don't, and it's just that simple. I identified myself as an alcoholic when I come up here. I didn't know what that was either. Now, I listened to my friend Jay this morning talking about that. No, I always had a definition of an alcoholic. Y'all remember Otis on the Andy Griffith Show? Yeah, I Otis, man. Otis' clothes always wrinkled. He had a pint in his pocket. He was in and out of jail on a daily basis. I watched every episode of the Andy Griffith Show, even the ones in color. I remember Otis working no place. Okay? That's my definition of alcohol. I was over in London, England, and I asked them that question. Y'all remember Otis on the Andy Griffith Show? And 2,000 people went, no. No. I thought they had cable. I don't know. Anyway, my definition of alcoholism was a sliding definition. And it was a sliding definition because as my disease progressed, I kept fitting the definitions that I had. So every time I fit it, I would change it. I would lower the bar because I can't be one. Oh? When I was a kid, if you'd asked me what's the alcoholic, I'd have said it's easy. That's somebody that's drunk every day. I don't know where I got that from, but that's what I believed. As a teenager, I became a daily drinker. That must not be it. I said, all right, an alcoholic is somebody who misses work, school, or important things in life because of drinking. It interferes with one's priorities in life. You know, that must be alcoholic. As a teenager, alcohol began to interfere with work, school, and important things in life. That must not be it. I finally figured it out, though. I said, alcoholic is somebody who goes to jail because of drinking. Certainly that must be it. As you hear in a few minutes, I really had to change that one. By the time I staggered through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, my definition, that derelict under the bridge, long trench coat, stocking cap, drinking Wild Irish Rose, Mad Dog, a Thunderbird out of brown paper sack, sleeping under a cardboard box. Yes, that certainly must be an alcoholic. Okay? The only reason that was my definition when I got here is very simple. Because that's the only thing that had not yet happened to me. And if I didn't have the family that I had that broke my fall for many, many years, that's exactly where I would have been. I can stand here tonight in all honesty and tell you I drank in Wino's Alley with them old men in Sandusky, Ohio. The only difference between me and them old men who slept in that alley was that I had a family that would open the back door for me when it got dark and they didn't. I had the nerve to walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous when I was new and poke my chest out and say, you know, I ain't never been homeless. There was a man at that meeting. His name was Jim Redmond. Jim Redmond was 53 years sober. Jim Redmond looked at me and said, son, I got some bad news for you. He said, if you grown and you living in your mom and daddy's house and you ain't paying no rent, you homeless. That man hurt my feelings. I hope I didn't step on no toes in here tonight. But the truth will set you free. All right? So what is this thing called alcoholism? Jay talked about it earlier. Mental obsession to drink, physical allergy to alcohol, not every day walking around verbiage when I came to AA. You know, I used to get in the car. I worked at Ford Motor Company. And I used to get in the car with the boys after work because I didn't have one. And I'd be in the back seat and I'd say, man, I've been thinking about a cold beer all night. Nobody in the front seat turned around and said, that's the mental obsession that precedes the... We didn't know! No? Obsession, a thought so strong it will override or overcome any thinking I can raise as a defense against it. What are some of the mental defenses I tried to raise against taking the first drink? Common sense, wasn't born with any, that didn't work. I tried self-knowledge, I did this last week, I'll do this week, that didn't work. I tried fear of consequences I might face if I drank. In my late teens, I'm waking up, laying in the bed when my eyes open and mentally making a list of all the reasons why I ain't drinking today. If you new in here, let me share something with you. If you've ever done that, that's an indicator of a problem. People who don't have a problem do not lay in the bed and make a list of reasons why they ain't drinking today. You know, and I'd make that list. If I drink today, I'm going to get kicked out of school, get kicked off the team, get kicked out the house. My girlfriend going to leave me. I'm going to lose my job. A dirty urine, I'm going to the penitentiary. All them things true in my life at one time or another. If you drink like I drank, usually several of them simultaneously, and I would lay in the bed, I would take a look at the truth, and I would make a decision based on truth. The easiest kind of decision to make. I ain't drinking. I don't want those consequences, so I ain't drinking. And I meant it as much as I mean it tonight. And then I get out of the bed. And usually like about 5 seconds later, another thought would come floating in my head. Maybe you can identify with this. It usually went something like this. You could have one. One drink, and bam, like a radar, I would lock on that thought. Man, I'm only going to have one. And here's the killer thing about this. If you knew, roll with me for a minute. When I think that I'm only going to have this one and it's going to be all right, all them reasons for not drinking don't come back to me. Because I'm only going to have one. Now, this is an honest program. It's an honesty-based program. So doesn't it naturally follow then that alcoholism is a lie-based disease? Because the truth is this. I have never in my entire life to this day had one of anything that I enjoy. My philosophy of life is very simple. If one's good, two's better, three's outstanding, four is magnificent, let's pony up money for five. I am Dr. Feelgood. Right? So what is the statement, I'm only going to have one? It's a lie. It's a lie. My sponsor, Bill, told me when I came in the program, he said, I don't know about you, son, but I never walked in the bar room and said, hey, bartender, give me a shot and a beer. I want to be in jail by 9 o'clock. This is not the way I roll. It's always going to be what? It's going to be different, right? Half of my brain manufactures BS, the other half buys it. I mean, that's how I roll. I have these conversations and meetings with myself, I'm telling you. Thank God for sponsorship. So now that I'm only going to have this one, I pick up the drink and I drink it, and the second part of the disease becomes active. Silkworth calls it the allergy to alcohol, the phenomenon of craving. True story. I'm out cutting my grass on a 90-degree day. So is my non-alcoholic next-door neighbor. I'm watching him. He gets hot and thirsty. He shuts his lawnmower off. He gets off it. He walks over to his deck. He flips open a cooler full of cold beer. He pulls out a cold, and he pops the top on, or he sucks it down. It quenches his thirst. And nobody in this room is going to believe it, but I've seen this with my own 2 eyes. With that full cooler of beer still sitting there, that man actually got back on his lawnmower and finished cutting his grass. All right? The difference between me and my neighbor, if I get off of my lawnmower and I pop a top on a cold one and I suck her down, it does not quench my thirst. What it does to me, and maybe to you, is it makes me thirstier. And grass cutting is over at the Coleman house. My lawnmower be sitting in that same spot in 2 weeks when I get out of the county, because that's how I roll, right? Third facet of disease, spiritual malady, soul sickness. I'm a guy who made a conscious decision to live my life on my own will. I'm a guy who made a conscious decision to live a godless life. Not because I didn't believe in God, The book says, first of all, we had to quit playing God. And I'm a guy who made a conscious decision that I'm going to do things my way. However, there's a problem with that. If I'm going to run my own life, I decide what the things are. Bill talks about them in the 12 and 12, and he talks about these instincts for companionship, for security, for sex, for all these things. So if I'm going to run my own life, those are things that God is supposed to provide to his children, then that means I'm going to have to manipulate and control the people, places, and things around me in order to satisfy my needs. Am I making sense? But there's a problem with that. The people, places, and things around me refuse to cooperate. And as a result of that, I become restless, irritable, and discontented. And I will push or pull, no matter what it takes, even harder to get my way. And the world and its people continue to not cooperate. And I become even more restless, irritable, and discontented. It's like a current that runs through me, and it grows in intensity each and every day. This disease of mind, body, and spirit is called alcoholism. And I don't know if you got it, but I definitely got it, and I don't treat it. Death, imprisonment, or commitment are guaranteed me. And if you're new here and you don't understand that, just stay here and watch what happens to the people who don't. It's just that simple. I'm 53 years old. I was born in the city of Sandusky, Ohio, the second of three boys. I was raised in a Christian home. I would have taught the difference between right and wrong before my feet ever hit the front yard. I had as fine a mother and father that have ever graced this earth. I am the son of Pete and Evelyn Coleman. And growing up, my dad worked for General Motors. My mom worked for Chrysler. I'm retired from Ford. And as I got to tell you, we had a lot of craziness in the house, but we had really nice cars. But anyway, growing up, my mother was the president of Ohio Baptist Women's Convention. My mother was a very well-known and very powerful woman, at one time the highest-ranking woman in Chrysler Corporation. To this day, my mother is the smartest person that I ever knew. A lot of the famous people that you see on TV and religion, them people from down here, them people been in my house. My father was the commissioner of the local Little League. My father was a decorated Korean War veteran, a man who lived his life in such a manner that he could hold his head high in his community. My mom and dad were the best. They were the best. Jay talked about it earlier. Y'all got another parent abuser behind the podium. I had an older brother and a younger brother. Our grandparents lived with us. If mom and dad said no, our grandmother lived with us, and the word no was not in her vocabulary. That's the life I had growing up. Always, even as a little kid, shy, insecure, and afraid, restless, irritable, and discontented. The book says the problem with alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. It's a perception problem. I always thought my older brother was the firstborn son and everybody's favorite, and my little brother was the baby coochie cuckoo. Everybody loved that baby. And I'm standing off to the side saying, what about me? What about me? Jay talked about it this morning. I got to refer to his talk. I was never treated any differently than they were. I can look back now and I was my mother's favorite. But that's the way that I saw things. In our house, in the 12 and 12, Bill said the 12 steps are a set of principles spiritual in nature. I was introduced to spiritually principled living before I went to kindergarten. In our house, they told us honesty is the best policy. A real man is always honest with himself and other people. To thine own self be true. In our house, maybe in somebody else's house in here, we got automatic whoopings when we got caught lying. Anybody else had that happen? That's step one. I learned the significance of honesty in my life at the end of a hickory stick. My mother said to me one day, Kenny, come here, I'm worried about you. Contrary to what you believe, the sun does not rise when you wake up and set when you go to bed. She said, look out the window and tell me what you see. Trees, birds, sky, flowers, grass, cars, people, animals. She said, you think this just popped up out of nowhere? She said, Kenny, there's a power that's greater than you that created all of this, and all you have to do is be willing to believe that step two. In our house, they said, if you will make a decision to put your life in the hands of the power that created all this. In my house, they call that power God. They said you will always have what you need no matter what happens outside or around you. They was telling me the answer is inside, not outside, step three. In our house, Mama used to say, Anytime you got a problem, no matter how bad you think it is, come talk to us about it. A problem shared is a problem half solved. You're only as sick as your secrets. No man is an island. Steps 4 and 5. In our house, they used to tell us the biggest room in a human being's life is the room for improvement. If you can make C's, you can make B's. If you can make B's, you can make A's. And if you'll ask the power that created all of this to help you in any positive thing you want to do, the power will always help you. That's what the power does. That's step 6 and 7. In our house, they told us anytime you hurt, harm, or wrong somebody else, go make right the wrong you done. You owe an apology, make it your time, give it your own money, pay it, clean up your mess. That's what responsible people do. That's steps 8 and 9. Mama used to say you can never go forward in this life if you don't know where you are today and what you need to work on to get where it is you want to go. How can you go somewhere if you don't know where you at? Try that sometime. Step 10. Our grandmother said the secret to having a good day is simple. When you wake up in the morning, slide out of the bed onto your knees and say one word, please. As you go throughout the day and you don't know what to do, ask the power that created all of this to help you. And at night before you get back in the bed, hit your knees again and say 2 words, thank you, step 11. And in our house, they told us the greatest thing a human being could do with their life was not acquire money and material things. It would be of service to others. We were taught to follow the golden rule. Talk to folk the way you want to be talked to. Treat folk the way you want to be treated. Respect your elders. And offer to share with your brothers, your cousins, and your friends the things you have before you have your own. Be of service to your fellow man, step 12. When I got on the bus to go to kindergarten, I was already armed with a set of principles, spiritual in nature, that I know today as the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. To our new friends here tonight, I have a message for you. Spiritually principled living did not originate in Akron, Ohio in 1935. Those principles are ancient. And there's tons of people out there who live like that out there every single day. And guess what? They don't expect a pat on the back for it either. Of course, I always did. I was 7 months sober. I went to see my grandmother. I said, Mama, guess what? She said, what? I said, I paid my bills 7 months in a row. She said, I paid mine 72 years in a row. Get out of here. Huh? Unbelievable. So you might be thinking, if you knew, well, if you had all that before you went to kindergarten, what are you doing leading an AA meeting tonight? And I can give you a really simple answer to that. And some of y'all know the answer to that, don't you? I never did any of it. I talked about it a lot, though. Huh? You ever be down at the bar room and there'd be some drunk in there quoting scripture? That was me. I'd be down at Brownlee's Tavern. Every Friday down at Brownlee's Tavern, some drunk would have a meltdown. And it usually be because he was getting divorced, going to jail, or losing his job. But that's what we did down at Brownlee's. And some guy would break down and start sobbing, and Kent would stagger over there with a drink in his hand and say something like this. Luke chapter 14. Verses 9 to 12. I'm giving spiritual guidance and comfort down to Brownlee's Tavern. And I didn't just stop there. I give marital advice down to Brownlee's. I had never had a wife, but I didn't see how that made a difference. With my life savings laying on the bar, I give financial guidance down to Brownlee's. My daddy called me a walking encyclopedia of perfectly useless information. And the reason, because I was a parrot. I'm telling people something I read out of a book or overheard somebody else say. None of it was born of my experience, therefore it had no value. Experience is the thing of supreme value in this life. You can't give what you don't have. I need to be careful about being a parrot in AA. There's a lot of things said in AA that have no basis of fact in our program. 90 meetings in 90 days, really? Find that for me in AA literature. A man said to me, we don't have quarterly recovery here. We stay sober a day at a time. I said, well, how long do I have to go to these meetings? He said, till you decide you want to drink again. We got all kinds of stuff going in here. My sponsor told me, read the black print on the white page in the blue book, and if it ain't in there, leave it alone because you're betting your life on it. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's how I was brought up in AA. Always felt this hole in my gut. So I was always looking for something to fill it, reading, daydreaming, anything to get me. Looking back in the rear, it's a thing about alcoholism. Baffling feature. You can't see what it's doing to you till you're free of it. See, I can look in the rearview mirror now and tell you all this stuff, and it makes it, when I'm living in it, when I'm in the mix, I can't see none of this. And I'm looking for things to make me feel better on the inside, and I'm looking for outside things. My first drink of choice was my older brother. My older brother was a football star in our town. I come from a family that plays the game of football. My daddy played at West Virginia State. My Uncle Bo played at Penn State. I had two cousins that played in the National Football League for over 10 years. My family do football on Saturdays and Sundays, and we do it in front of 90 or 100,000. We was raised to do that. Our baby pictures is us in diapers in a three-point stance in the middle of the living room floor. That ain't no joke. That's how we was raised. And I had a brother by the time he was 16 years old, was 6'2", weighed 215 pounds, could run a 4.40 on a cinder track and tennis shoes. And he agreed to go to Ohio State University to play football for Woody Hayes, who was our coach at that time. And I idolized my brother. I followed him everywhere he went. I lived in his shadow. I had ease and comfort in his shadow. When I was with him, nobody expected me to be, do, or say anything. And that shyness, that insecurity, and that fear would disappear. I had ease and comfort in his shadow. He was my first drink of choice. On the first Saturday in September of 1972, we went to Massillon, Ohio to scrimmage the Massillon Tigers, the great high school football power in the state of Ohio, along with our school, the Sandusky Blue Streaks. We used to call it Blood Saturday. And that was before the state playoffs, so we would settle the state championship a week before the season started. And my brother had a big day that day. He had 4 runs over 50 yards, and late in the scrimmage, got hit low, got hit high, fell funny, got up, walked to the sidelines, collapsed. 5 seconds later, he wasn't breathing. 9 hours of brain surgery on Monday, and on Wednesday, September the 5th of 1972, he died. And it changed my life. Did it make me alcoholic? Absolutely not. Stop any car out there on the street. I've already talked about alcoholism. Stop any car out there on the street, you'll find similar stories. People live, people die, tragedies happen. Nope, didn't make me alcoholic. What did it do to me? To be perfectly honest with you, it seemed to intensify the feelings of difference that I was already plagued with. You know, back in them days, there was no counseling. There was nobody to talk to. My family was about to explode. My town was about to explode, and everybody had to deal with this thing on their own. My mother, see, I've never doubted the power or existence of God, because it was during this time that I saw God in action for the first time in my life. My brother's funeral was the biggest funeral in the history of Sandusky, according to the Fowler House Museum. We got to that funeral home that next Friday, and there was literally thousands of people around the block. My mother walked into that funeral home and stood by my brother's casket, and this is what she said: I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't know how, but blessings will result from this. I watched my mother take an entire town and my entire family and put them on her shoulders and walk us through that. And at the age of 13, I knew this: my mama didn't have that kind of power. My mama didn't have that kind of power. After my brother's gone, I'm hanging out with guys my own age. I'm 13 years old. These are guys I've known since I was 2. We stand on the street corner. Topics of conversation among our crew in 1972 at the age of 13 consisted of 3 things: drinking beer, smoking weed, and climbing in and out of girls' bedroom windows in the middle of the night. And I was batting 0, 0, 0. I had a mother that did not play that, but I wouldn't let nobody know that I didn't know what they was talking about, because I certainly didn't know what they was talking about. Y'all remember them dogs that used to put in the back window of the car with their head to go like this? That's me. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, ain't that fun? I was over there the other night. I'm 13 years old. We talked about this morning, this lying. And I become a liar, a fake, and a phony. I'm telling people I've been places I ain't been. I know people I don't know, and I've done things that I haven't done. I am willing to go to any length to gain your approval. I'm looking on the inside to fix a problem, on the outside to fix a problem that's on the inside. What I know today, if you're new in here, outside solutions don't fix inside problems. I suffer from a spiritual malady. My book says when we get better spiritually, the mental and the physical will follow. A spiritual malady demands a spiritual solution. Not a relationship solution, a financial solution, an intellectual solution. It demands a spiritual solution. My mom used to talk to me a lot. She said, oh, Kenny, God's been so good to you. One of these days you have a wonderful life and be of service to other people. Blah, 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 blah. And I used to look at my mom and I said, I can tell you the truth. You know, if you want to know, I have no desire to be of service to God, you, or anybody else. If you want to know what I want in life, I want this. I want mine. I want to get it my way. And I'm going to need you to leave me alone while I'm doing it because I ain't doing it the way you're doing it. And my mom, you know, she'd get that sad look on her face. You know how they do. And she said, we didn't raise you that way, Kenny. You don't get it. And I put my finger in her face and I said, no, you the one who don't get it. And if you don't think my way is going to work, get out the way and watch me roll because I got a game plan. 13 years old. One of the gifts God did give me is I did well in school. I give God the credit for that today. I'm a guy that wasn't challenged by school. School comes easily for me. I'm a guy who sleeps through class and gets straight A's. And I give God credit for that because I didn't earn any of it. Of course, back then I took credit for it because that's the tone and tenor of my life. Anything good, I take credit for. Anything bad, I'm blaming you. And I'm sitting in study hall one day, and my sponsor, Bill, told me when I was new in AA, yeah, I got to tell you, this is the head I bought into AA. One of the most damaging statements I've ever heard in an AA meeting is this. You tell a new person, think the drink through. Really? Here's the head I bought into AA. I went to my sponsor, Bill. I said, Bill, I got a question. He goes, what? I said, you know the invisible line they talk about crossing in AA? He said, yeah. I said, well, my question is, if it's invisible, how does anybody ever know they crossed it? Bill looked at me and he said, I want you to triple your meetings. I said, I'm already going to 2 a day. He said, go to 6. He said, son, anytime you in a room alone, all your enemies are there. And he was referring to my thinking. And I'm sitting in study hall one day. I'm 14 years old. I had a visit from the enemy, my thinking. And here's the thought that occurred to me. You know, these people in here breaking their neck trying to get B's and C's, taking general math and science. I am taking calculus, physics, 4th year, Latin, 4th year, English. I sleep through class and get straight A's. You know, it just might be entirely possible that I know everything. Y'all know where this is going, don't you? I had no evidence to support that thought as being true. I accepted it as a fact. I left the room and I took action on it. I went home and told that to my mother and father. I thought they ought to know because it was going to change things around the house. What happened after that, I can make a long story short. My father came up off that couch and, you know, I was scared of my daddy. My daddy played football when they didn't have face masks. And my daddy came up off that couch and I believe to this day that man intended to strangle me. I don't know because I didn't wait around to see. I broke for the screen door. I got out the screen door and closed it. My dad was right behind me. I turned around and I looked in his face. And this is what he said to me. He said, boy, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, you're going to have a hard life. He said, Kenny, don't nobody know everything. And I stood on that porch and I looked my dad in his eye and I laughed in his face. It was a significant day in my life. On that day, I closed the door. Our book says honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness are the 3 essentials of recovery, yet they are indispensable. On that day, I closed my mind. I was no longer teachable. If I'm not teachable, I cannot learn. If I cannot learn, I cannot grow. And everybody in my life became an idiot. My mother, my father, the preacher, the teacher, later on the police, the judges, the lawyer, the probation, the PO. You can't tell me if I don't know it, it ain't worth knowing became my philosophy of life. Selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, self-absorbed, and according to my mother, mean as a rattlesnake. I had yet to take a drink of alcohol. I tell people I was the perfectly tilled soil for the disease of alcoholism. I already had obsessive thinking. I already had a spiritual malady, and now we got to find out if I got the physical allergy. And I got in the car with a guy I played basketball with in high school. He was 2 years older than me. He lived the life I lived in my head. Ran around, snazzy car, pocket full of money, ran around with the kind of girls I ran away from when I seen them coming down the hall. And I got in the car with Johnny, and he said, hey, Coleman, you want to get something to drink? Now, I have been warned about drinking. Alcoholism does not run in my family. It gallops. And I have been told we do not do alcohol. Well, look at Junkie Ed, look at Junior, look at Bobby. Both sides of my family are rife with the disease of alcoholism. We threw our money together. We went through the drive-thru. We bought 10 quarts of Sliss Malt Liquor Bull. Johnny looked at me. He said, 5 quarts for you, 5 quarts for me. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If Johnny had said to me that day, let's go rob the carry out, I absolutely guarantee you I would have done it. That's how little sense of self that I had. That's how empty I was on the inside. Johnny dropped the convertible top down on that beautiful Pontiac, cranked up the music. We rode through the streets of Sandusky and we drank that beer. Now, I've heard a lot of alcoholics describe that first drunk. Here's what I can tell you. I heard a guy say one time, there comes a moment in the drinking career of every alcoholic, he takes a drink and alcohol flips the switch, the lights go on. Everything that I ever wanted to be, do, or say immediately became possible. I went from shy, insecure, and afraid to bold, confident, suave, debonair, and fearless in about 20 minutes. We went behind the Derrick Apartments where all the thugs hung out. We pulled up. I had not said 5 words in public in the last 3 years. People surrounded the car. The music was blasting. I looked at Johnny. I said, Johnny, turn that music down. There's a few things I want to tell a few people who are present here this afternoon that I've been wanting to tell them for quite some time. And I went around that circle of hoodlums, and not only did I tell each and every one of them what I thought of them, I also told them what they needed to do, in my opinion, to improve themselves. The reaction of the guys standing around that car was this. Guys was leaning in the car and hugging me. And they said, see, I told you. I told you my boy, all right, he loosening up. He's doing a little drinking. He's one of us. I made a mental note of that. When I drink, I change. And I now have the acceptance of the people whose acceptance I want the most. That wasn't mom and dad. That was them drive-by shooters behind the Derrick Apartments. Alcohol equals success, and you better believe I got it. We left from there. We went over to the home of some of them girls he run around with, I run away from. I've never been over there in my life. I walked into that home like I was paying the mortgage. I went and sat down at the dining room table, and I made eye contact across the room with a girl I think is the finest girl to graduate from Sandusky High School in his 161-year history. I had never even breathed in her direction, much less said hello. And I looked over there at her, and she looked up at me, and I said, come here. And she got up and started walking toward me. Now, any sane human being at this point would probably think to themselves, gee, Ken, if you wasn't so shy and scared, you know, look what you could have did if you just spoke up. Is that what I thought? Nope. Here's what I thought. If you had been drinking before now, look what you could have done. Look what you've been missing. I remember thinking that as clearly as if it happened this morning. Alcohol equals success, and you better believe I got it. Now, I said earlier that this is an honest program, and the truth of the matter is this. When she got over there to me, I had no idea what to do with her. I don't think that far ahead when I'm drinking. But guys like me have a lot of time on our hands. We watch a lot of TV. On TV, they go like this. So I did. And she sat down in my lap. And my life changed again. And the bottom line to that whole story is that very simple. On that day, alcohol did for me what I could not or would not do for myself. What happened after that is they give you the rest of my drinking history very quickly. Drink trouble. Went into a blackout, my first drunk. Jay talked about that this morning. That happens to alcoholics. I didn't know that. Have no idea what went on the next 4 or 5 hours according to eyewitnesses at the house. I came in the front door and started throwing up. I threw up a trail through the living room, through the kitchen, through the family room. My grandfather fell on the floor laughing. I went into the bathroom. I hit everything but the toilet. The next thing I remember is my mother knocking on my bedroom door, screaming, come out here and clean up this mess. You know you've been drinking. Blah, 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 blah. I staggered into the hallways and what later years would be my drinking uniform, my underwear. Bouncing off of them hallway walls. I got a hangover that's alive, you know what I mean? I go in the bathroom. I locked the bathroom door, put my hands on the bathroom sink. I looked in the mirror, and this is what I said. Man, oh, man, I can't wait to do that again. Anybody relate to that? Grounded for life is what was being discussed in the living room. So immediately, as a result of drinking alcohol, I'm facing negative consequences. Now, the book talks about a guy who burns his hand on a hot stove. He don't put his hand on a hot stove again. Here's the thinking that I got, okay? Let's take a look at what happened here. Kent, you got drunk? Yep. You got sick? Yep. You are grounded for life. This is true. Now, let's look at the situation. You got drunk, yeah, but that's not the problem. The problem here is that you got sick. If you hadn't got sick, none of this would have happened. What you got to do is learn how to drink without getting sick. Anybody identify with this? I can't see the forest for the trees. I'm 14 years old. I can't see. Not drinking was never an option I considered. Why? Because alcohol is an answer for me. It ain't a problem. Alcohol is pats on the back, girls in my lap. Alcohol equals success. I'm 14 years old, and I'm gone. And I never looked back. You know, they talk about this physical allergy. I always drank more than other people my own age. I had that twisted. I thought that was because I drank like a man and they was punks. That's what I thought. I drink like a man. What I didn't understand was there's something physically different about me than the guys that I ran around with, and I didn't understand that. So what I did is I sought out a bunch of other guys who seemed to drink like I did, okay, and I'm off to the races. I talked about the parent abuse. Got me a car when I was 16. I had a 1 o'clock curfew. I'll come home 4 o'clock in the morning. Every time I used to come home on the weekends, my mom would be up and her light would be on. And she'd holler out her bedroom, "Kenny, come here and let me see you." And I would walk into her bedroom door and she'd be in there with the light on. And this is what I would say to my mom: "Why are you up? Why are you up? If y'all go somewhere, I don't sit up here at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning waiting on y'all to come home." What I want you to understand is this: I am so self-absorbed that I cannot even see you. I cannot even comprehend the love of a parent for a child because all I think about is me. All I think about is me. I am not a speaker who will ever get behind a podium in AA and talk to you about the good times I had drinking. Let me tell you something. You think you had good time drinking? This is what a man said to me when I was new. He said, "Go get your mother, your father, the girl you live with, your neighbors, your creditors, and your employer. Bring them in a room and say, 'Ken had a really good time drinking. What kind of time did y'all have?'" What do you think they'd say? From the day I picked it up. You know what Kent's definition is of a good time drinking? Any consequences that have to be paid as a result of my drinking are paid by somebody else. If you have a sleepless night, that's your problem. You should have went to bed. Take a sleeping pill. If you didn't get a decent day's work out of me, that's your problem. You don't treat me right anyway. If that bill didn't get paid, that's your problem. Anytime I had to pay the price, it's a different story. That's my definition of a good time. So I come home at 4 o'clock in the morning. My mother got tears running down her eyes. She's sitting on the couch. The lamp is on, and this is what my mother said to me. She said, "Kenny, as your parents, we have a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes on your back, and an education, and we have fulfilled our part of the bargain." She said, "But, buddy, I got something you can't have." And she said, "That's my peace of mind." She said, "Kenny, you going to penitentiary or the cemetery, and I got a message for you. I ain't going with you. I'm done. Go. Do what you want. I'm giving you to God. I'm done." And this is what I said to my mom. "I broke you. I broke you, and I want you to know something. You being such a spiritual giant, I'm a little bit disappointed because it wasn't even that hard. And that's how I treated my mother. How do you think I treated you?" You want to see alcoholism in my home? Before I started drinking, there was no screaming and hollering in our home. There were no sleepless nights. There was no anxiety. There was no guilt and shame and resentment and fear in our home. It was happy, joyous, and free. I brought that crap into that house, and I infected the people who loved me with it most. And I got the nerve to stand up here and talk to you about the good times I had drinking. Went to college. The first day I went to college was a Sunday. All the incoming freshmen, all you see is hugging and crying, babies leaving home for the first time. If you watched my family, you'd have seen how alcoholism already affected us. My father unloaded that van like his butt was on fire. They was up I-75 before I got the key in the door. The last thing my father said before he went down the steps of the dormitory was, "Now your mother can sleep. Now your mother can sleep." No parental interference. 5 years of college, I was drunk from the day I got there to the day I left. My alcoholism exploded. By the time I'm 19 years old, I got shakes in the morning. 19 years old. I had set up headquarters at the Boar's Head Inn uptown, and I went up to see Tom, the bartender. He's kind of like my sponsor. And I told Tom, I said, "I think I got Parkinson's." He said, "You're 19 years old. You got Parkinson's." He said, "Here's what you do, son." He said, "I want you to go get a fifth of 100 proof old granddad. When you get up in the morning, if your hands are shaking, drink 2 shots. I guarantee they'll stop." Got up the next morning, shaking like a leaf, drank 2 shots of granddad, and guess what? My hands stopped shaking. You know what I said? That man is a genius. My sponsor pointed out to me, he says, "Do you notice, Kent, that you never questioned the bartender, but you had coaches, counselors, family, friend, people who loved you, wanted the best for you, and all you ever said was, 'I know what I'm doing, I'm grown, and I ain't hurting nobody.' But you never questioned the bartender." To the new people in here, why is it I'm always willing to listen to the people who harm me? Why is that? I went to school with the same goals and dreams of any young person that goes to college. By the time I'm 19 years old, and I don't see this happening, just the worm turns. All of a sudden, I had set my life up with activities to accommodate and support my goals. At some point, it changed, and alcoholism became the center of my life, and I set my activities up to accommodate my drinking. The classes I took, the major that I had, the people that I ran around with. Eventually, I get out of college, I come home, I go to work in the factory. Hell, I didn't have to go to college to do that. I could have done that out of high school. Why did I do that? If you would have asked me, you know what I would have told you? Because, man, we make money like lawyers in them auto plants. No, that wasn't the reason. You know why? They had a union in there and I needed it. If you drink like I drink and you don't go to work like I don't go to work, you need a union. Right? I set my life up to accommodate my drinking. And I'm going down, down, down. I'll bring you up to the end of my drinking. I'll tell you quickly, I'm a drink trouble guy, okay? If this here was a beer, and I stood here tonight, and I took a drink, a cop had dropped right out of that light and landed in the middle of this floor. Old timers in Cleveland used to say, put a D on this shoe and a T on that shoe, drink trouble. I get that, right? I didn't have a driver's license for, probably the last 8 years I drank. I lost my license. Well, I didn't lose it. I knew where it was. It was in Columbus. And I mean, it was just the norm for me. And I was convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol 7 times in the state of Ohio. I've been convicted of weapons charges. I've been convicted of some pretty bad stuff. I'm not a big criminal. I'm not some kind of gangster. I'm a drunk. I'm just a drunk. That's all I am. And I had a heart attack at the age of 28. I dropped dead in my bedroom as a result of things I was doing. They put me in the cardiac unit. And I laid in there with tears running down the side of my face, and my mom standing in the door telling the doctor, I already lost my oldest son. I can't lose another one. Do what you got to do, but he can't die. But I ain't hurting nobody. And I lay there with tears running down the side of my face, and I swear to God, if you let me live, I'll never drink again. 48 hours in the cardiac unit, they put me in a regular hospital room. I was drunk 2 hours later. If I had the power to quit drinking on my own, I'd never come to AA. Why should I? If I could decide that this is no more for me and I can make that stand up, I'd have never come here. No matter how great the necessity or the wish, I don't have the power to stop on my own. My last 3 years of drinking, I tried everything I could think of. I went back to church. I sat up at night with a Bible in his hand and a Miller High Life in his hand. I quit hanging around them guys. I got the booze out of the house. I did everything that a human being could do, and I couldn't stop drinking. And I gave up. My last year of drinking, there was no day, no night, no right, no wrong, no good, no evil, no God, no devil. I lived in a place of cold-blooded, cold-hearted indifference. I'm a guy who the 3 most prominent words in my vocabulary, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart, was I don't care. And I believe that's as far away from God as a human being can get, and I don't ever want to forget where alcoholism took me. How dark it is before the dawn. I like how Bill Wilson writes, because I'm about to be rocketed into the 4th dimension of existence and to a life better than the best I ever known. I came out of a bar with my brother, got in the car. At this point, I got a distended liver. I work 2 days a week. I don't change clothes or take baths anymore. I'm a bum. I'm a low-bottom, stumble bum drunk is what I am. And then we get in the car, and I had what they call a moment of clarity or a moment of sanity. There's a guy in Cleveland, Six-Pack Charlie Kitchen. And Charlie said that's the moment when God paralyzes the liar in you long enough for you to see the truth. And what I saw was this. Instantly, my head cleared up, and it was this. If you don't stop drinking, Kent, you're going to die. And you better get some help because you can't do it by yourself, and you better do it now because you're running out of time. Every time I would take a drink of alcohol, I would cough all this white stuff up. My liver and my pancreas were no longer metabolizing the alcohol I was drinking. So my body is now rejecting what my mind is obsessed with. I'm 32 years old and I'm dying of alcoholism. And I picked up the phone and I called my best friend from college who's a doctor because I didn't know who else to call. There was a treatment center 3 blocks from my house. I didn't even know what it was. And I called my buddy. He was down by Dayton, Ohio, 225 miles away from me. I owed him $5,000, hadn't paid him back a dime, didn't even know if he'd take a call from me. His wife answered the phone, and this is what she said: "Richard, it's Kent." And Rich got on the phone, and this is what I said to him: "Rich, it's your boy, man. I need some help." And this is what he said to me: "Man, I've been waiting for this call for 7 or 8 years. Pack a bag, stay by the phone. I got you." When I get a call from the intergroup office at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know what I tell them, don't you? Pack a bag, stay by the phone. I got you. And for that, I am responsible. Told me to come down there where he was. He's going to put me in treatment. He said, "Don't go to work. They're going to fire you." The next day, my brother and his wife in the front seat of the car. I'm in the back seat with a case of Genesee beer. Now, I didn't know too much about treatment, but I had figured out on my own the night before that they wasn't serving no liquor down there. So I got me a case of Jenny's, and as we sped down I-75, I got 3 or 4 of them cold beers in me, and y'all ain't gonna believe this, but I had a visit from the enemy, my thinking, on my way to treatment. And here's the thought that came to me after 3 or 4 beers: you know, I just may have overreacted here. Ain't that what alcohol do for you? Man, give me 2 shots of old granddad, what problem? I can go from homicidal and suicidal to the life of the party in 10 minutes. What I didn't know is my dad told my brother and his wife, "I give you $100, you don't bring that tramp back here." That's a true story. That's a true story. We got down there. They took me to Richard's home in Centerville. He put me in his car. We went and he got a quart of Millers. He got me a quart of Millers. He said it was always your favorite. He drove me from Centerville to treatment in Xenia, Ohio. We pulled in the parking lot at Green Memorial Hospital. I had this much left in that quart. He put his car in park, got the biggest smile I ever seen on his face. He looked at me. He said, "Go ahead, dog, finish that, and don't ask me how I know him, man." He said, "That's the last beer you ever going to drink." On the 17th of May, 1992, I have not had another drop of alcohol or anything else since that day, and that's because AA works. If you're new in here tonight, I got a message for you. Relapse is not a requirement for recovery. And let me share something else with you. Where I live at, we got new people standing up in meetings and saying, "I've relapsed, I'm reintroducing myself." And then I always say, "Really? Can I ask you a couple of questions?" And they'll go, "Sure, Kent." And I'll say, "Well, do you have a sponsor?" "Well, no." "If you read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and applied the 12 steps to your life to the best of your ability on a daily basis?" "Well, no." "Do you have a home group and a commitment at that group?" "Well, no." "Well, then what did you relapse from?" I want y'all to listen to me. We're giving people the impression that Alcoholics Anonymous is meeting attendance. They're going out getting drunk and calling it a relapse. A relapse is a return to a prior condition. If the prior condition is untreated alcoholism and the treatment for alcoholism is a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, you have not relapsed. You have continued to drink. We're giving people the impression that AA doesn't work because they're basing that on its meeting attendance. It's not meeting attendance. We got a program here. We got a program in here. And if you ain't doing it, just come back and say, "Hey, I haven't done this and I'm still drinking." You're welcome either way. But we got to stop defaming Alcoholics Anonymous and sending a message to people who don't know any better about what we are. We are Unity, Recovery, and Service. We're a 3 legacy program. That's what this is. And it's guaranteed to work for any individual that's in here tonight, one day at a time. Provided, as Dr. Silkworth says, I'm willing to follow a few simple rules. Then treatment, I got out of detox, they sent me to the men's group. They had men reading out loud stories of their drinking escapades in the streets. Counselor says, "What do you think, Kent, your first day in group?" I said, "I'll tell you what I think, Jim. Well, I'm down here for a few days to get help for the small problem I might have. I would like to volunteer my time, service, and energy to help you with these people. These are the sickest people I've ever seen in my life." That one statement got me an extra week of treatment. I spent 35 days in a 28-day program. My insurance cut off at 28 days, and they called the Ford plant, and they said, "You know, we don't think Kent's ready to leave the hospital." You know what they set up the Ford plant? We don't either. The next morning, they brought me down to the nurse's station where my enemy married a nurse who was 28 years sober in AA, hung a sign around my neck this big and said, "I am not a counselor." I had to wear it for a whole week. Next day, they had me write and read to the group. I did. Jim said, put your chair in the middle of the room. Let's tell Kent what we think of him. I'll start the ball rolling by saying, Kent's so full of BS, his eyes are turning brown. If you threw him in water, he'd float away. And that was the nicest thing said to me that day. What them guys told me, if I didn't get honest with myself, I was going to leave that place, drink, and die. How it works was read here today. It said, this is a matter of living which demands rigorous honesty. My sponsor, Kenny, told me when I came in AA, son, that ain't a suggestion. Get honest or die. And I made a decision to be as honest as I could the rest of the time I was there. Went to my first AA meeting. It was a discussion meeting. A lady from out of town raised her hand, shared a problem. They went around the room with no judgment or condemnation, shared with that lady similar experiences they had had and solutions they had found. At my first AA meeting, I saw the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous come to the aid of a complete and total stranger with no judgment or condemnation, and it blew my mind. My thought at my first AA meeting was, how could something like this exist and I've never heard of it? I was given a gift of loving this the first time I saw it, and it hasn't waned. I got out of treatment and came home and I started to play a game. It's called Don't Drink, Go to Meetings, and Don't Do Nothing Else. If I put my arm through a window and I cut an artery in my arm, I start bleeding all over the floor. I put a towel on my arm. I drive myself to the hospital. I run in the emergency room and sit down. The doctor comes out and says, come on back, Mr. Coleman, we'll treat you now. I sit there in the emergency room bleeding to death, look at the doctor and say, no, thank you, I'll just sit here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the emergency room. I've been here long enough now. I've watched people attend these meetings on a daily basis die of untreated alcoholism. The treatment for the disease I suffer from is not meeting attendance or book knowledge. It's a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, period. That's the AA program. I went to 250 meetings in 3 months and ended up in the parking lot of Daly's Pub. Selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem. I'm going to tell you something. I stopped drinking. I don't get better. If I did, you'd have a different speaker here tonight. I stopped drinking. I get worse. And after 3 months and 250 AA meetings, I want to kill everybody in the meetings and everybody I work with. I'm sitting in a car vibrating. I haven't made amends. I haven't worked the steps. I haven't made a decision. I ain't done nothing. I treated AA like a cigarette-smoking, donut-dunking coffee clutch, and I'm sitting in a car vibrating. I want to drink so bad. And I said my first prayer in AA in that car, and it's, God, what am I doing wrong? I don't want to drink. Man, I got the answer quick. What are you doing right? If you go to 250 AA meetings in 3 months, you hear it every day. Get a sponsor, read the book, work the steps, get a home group, get active, and help others. I ain't do none of that. Instead of going into Daly's Pub, I put that car in drive. I pulled out of there. I went to an AA meeting, and I ran to a man, and I said, would you help me? And this is what that man told me. He said, I will sponsor you from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, son, it's the only thing that I know. I will give to you what has been given to me, and I will demonstrate for you how I live this program in my life and with my family. You know, they call it 12 steps, a kit of spiritual tools. I love that. I got a toolbox in my house. I ain't never seen a hammer and screwdriver walk across the floor of my house and fix a thing. The only value of a tool is if I pick it up and use it. The only value of these steps is if I apply them to my life. I've had the great privilege of standing behind podiums of Alcoholics Anonymous all over the world. I have yet to attend a meeting where somebody stands up and says, it works if you know it. My sponsor sat me down, and this is what Bill told me. He said, son, bury yourself knee deep. He said, no, scratch that. He said, can't bury yourself shoulder deep in this thing called AA so you can't teeter and fall. And I've been shoulder deep in Alcoholics Anonymous from that day to this. And my love and enthusiasm for Alcoholics Anonymous as I stand here today, 21 years sober, is more intense than it was when I got here. I've never been inactive here. I'm going to get ready to get out of this thing. I'm just going to tell you real quick. I did have the opportunity to make amends to my mom. My mother was dying of bone cancer when I got sober. I didn't have a safe place to live, and they gave me one more chance to come live in that home from which I had been barred. And I went to my mom and dad's home, and I helped my dad take care of my mom on a daily basis, giving her baths, moving her from the bed to her chair, picking her up and carrying her. My mom saw me go to all those AA meetings. My mother saw me bring my first sponsees into that house and sit down at the kitchen table and open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. My mama seen me go out and speak at AA meetings in a shirt and a tie when I didn't even have a suit. My sponsor said, none of that I'm sorry crap. He said, for once in your life, why don't you go be the kind of son God would have you to be? And to the best of my ability, that's exactly what I did. My sponsor said, we do make direct amends here, son, and you need to go talk to your mother. They got her off the morphine. The end was near. I went into that hospital room. I sat down with my mom. I stared at her. She stared at me. She had tears running down her eyes. I had tears running down mine. The only thing I could get out of my mouth, I had a big speech planned out. The only thing I could get out is, Mama, I'm so sorry for what I've done. My mother looked at me. My mother beamed. My mother beamed at me. And she smiled with tears running down her face. And this is what she said to me. She said, I forgive you. She said, Kenny, you got to promise me something. That you will stay with those people in AA because they were able to do for you what we could not. My prayers have been answered. And I told my mother I would, and I have. My mother died holding my hands and looking in my eyes in a hospital room full of my family, and I got a big family. And my Uncle Amos stood in the back of the room and said, don't call her no more because she ain't going to look away from him. That's how she want to go. And that's how my mama took her last breath and left this earth. And I'm going to tell y'all something right now. I've been blessed 1 billion times over since then, and if I never got nothing else than that, that was enough. Thank God for the fellowship and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. My dad died, I was 18 years sober. I stayed out of my daddy's business. My daddy did a lot of things and made a lot of decisions I didn't agree with after my mama died. It wasn't none of my business. I got to be the son he always wanted. My daddy told me one time that he had lived his whole life so he could hold his head up, and he said I was the reason that he was holding his head down. And I didn't have an answer for that. My daddy saw me get married, and my daddy saw the birth of my children. My daddy saw a lot of stuff, and we were the best of friends. I was executor of his estate. I handled all his business. And I was the last person to see my daddy alive, just like I was my mother. A guy in AA who worked with him at General Motors came to me after my dad died. He said, Kent, you need to know something. He said, your dad told me one time that he was ashamed to come to work because of something you did that was on the front page of the newspaper. He said, when you had a year in AA on your first AA birthday, your dad came to me and said, hey, Joe, do you know my boy? And Joe said, I said, yeah, Pete, I know your boy. He said, your dad looked at me and he smiled and said, ain't he something? Don't talk to me about what can't happen in here. God's grace ain't limited by what I think, thank God. I got married in here when I was 3 years sober to a woman sober 2 years longer than me. We was married for 18 years. That marriage ended a year ago, and I thought my life was over. I was 20 years sober. Out of nowhere. She got diagnosed with a serious illness, and our world exploded. And I reached out to the people in Alcoholics Anonymous who have helped me. And as a result of a series of God shots, I ended up taking a job in Las Vegas, and I went to Las Vegas a year ago this month. And I stayed in Las Vegas for a year with my sponsor, Bob. And I left my little girls in Ohio, and it broke my heart. And I told them, if you want Daddy to come home, Daddy will come home. After 3 months, they said, Daddy, you're going to have to come home. And I said, I would see what God got in store. And so I was able to come back. And what I'll tell you about my time in Las Vegas was that it was one of the greatest years of my life. And I got to do some work with my sponsor out there at a depth that I had never experienced through these steps before. And I stand here today, I'm going to tell y'all something. I am happy, joyous, and free. My children are fine. My ex-wife is fine. My life is good. Somebody else came up, and I ain't looking for no relationships. And the girl who was the literature person at my group in Las Vegas with the pretty eyes and the pretty smile, and I just said hi to her one day, and she's with me in Ohio now. Don't talk to me about what God ain't going to do. My life is good. I got another good job, and I want to share something with you before I go. They gave me a tape of a man named Warren Chisholm Sr., 12th man in AA in Cleveland when I was new. And that tape, Warren Chisholm made this statement, that anyone who comes here who is willing to practice the principles and precepts of this program as outlined by the founders in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous need never drink again, one day at a time. I ran to my sponsor, Bill, because Bill was a friend of this guy. And I said, Bill, how can this guy, he can't say that you never drink again. He can't say that. And Bill said, oh, yes, he can. He said, and I'm going to tell you why I can't. He says, because this is a spiritual program, and God doesn't fail. There is no element of failure here. God doesn't fail, but I must participate in my own recovery. God will not do for me what I can do for myself. Those who do get, and those who don't. And it's just that simple. If I said anything that helped anybody tonight, thank God. Do not thank me. And if I didn't say nothing to help you tonight, guess what? There's some more meetings tomorrow. God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. God could and would if he were sought. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find. And join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Bye.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. and I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.